Hello, everyone. This is Brandon Easton, writer, comic book creator, and former New York City public school teacher. I'm coming to you today to talk about something that a lot of people have been hitting me up about in my DMs and in my personal messages and also in my personal life. And they're asking me my thoughts on Image slash Skybound's new Mobile Armored Strike Command or M.A.S.K comic book series. Some of you may know that I was the writer of the IDW Mobile Armor Strike Command or M.A.S.K comic book series back in 2015, 2016 when IDW started their own Hasbro verse, which was called at the time Revolution. It was really cool. There was like Transformers, M.A.S.K, ROM, GI Joe, Visionaries, and a couple of other things. I think Gem and the Holograms got mixed in there too. But my first thought about the new Skybound version of Mask is I am very happy that that Mask is coming back in some form. I am very very proud and offer my congratulations to the creative team. It looks amazing so far. The art looks beautiful. I'm not familiar about so much about the writing staff, but everything looks beautiful so far. The Transformers book and the GI Joe book in the Skybound, what they call Energon universe, which is really like a Hasbro universe. Everything they've done so far has been firing on all cylinders. It's been absolutely beautiful, and I have nothing negative to say about it at all. However, the reason people keep hitting me up about the new Mask book doesn't it's not all about the fact that I worked on the old one, but something else happened when I worked on the IDW Mask book, and that was Matt Trakker was changed from your typical square-jawed, blonde-haired, blue-eyed, typical Duke, Buck Rogers esque character into an African American version of Matt Trakker. Now, when that news was announced, this is before the book was even released, just the news and the imagery of what he looked like was announced, there was this explosion of, I don't know if you want to call it racial anger or bigotry, but these folks went ballistic that Matt Trakker was no longer going to be the one they remember from the 1985 cartoon, and now it was going to be an African American male. This is another thing people should also understand. At the age of 51, I was there watching Mask the first day it came on. I lost interest around the middle or toward the end of season two or whatever that was. But the bottom line is, I wasn't someone that was ignorant of the franchise. And the other side of it is that when you're a freelance writer, you're a work for hire. When you're hired to work on a book, particularly a legacy franchise or an IP owned by a larger corporation, you are not allowed to come in and make changes off the top of your head and do anything you want. So when we did the IDW Hasbro verse, we had like a story conference, I forgot what you call it, but it's like when you get away, and it was like a big meeting. We had like a development, whole development process. The Hasbro executive that was assigned to manage the IPs that were licensed to other companies, that executive made me aware that the Hasbro Corporation, Hasbro the company, executives within Hasbro wanted to make Matt Trakker a diverse figure. So they were like, "Are you open to that?" And I'm like, "Of course I'm open to that." And I figured, well, let's make him an African American guy. And Hasbro said, "Yes, let's do that." And we are allowing you to do that based on our mandate. So I didn't walk into Hasbro and say, he got to be a black guy. I didn't walk into IDW to the editorial team and be like, he got to be a black guy. It was a request, a mandate from Hasbro. So a lot of fans don't understand this very simple point. When you are hired to work on a franchise property, you are not allowed as a freelance writer to come in and do whatever you want. When you're working with an editorial team at a comic book company that has licensed a major property, whether it be Transformers, Robotech, Judge Dredd, Star Trek, Star Wars, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Gem and the Holograms. It could be, I don't know, Mobile Suit Gundam. It could be Ultraman. It could be, I don't know, Kamen Rider. It could be anything, right? You are not allowed to just come in and do whatever you want. I have worked, by the way, on quite a few licensed properties in my time. And every time I've done it, I've had to adhere to the policies and mandate of the parent company. That's how it works, folks. So when you see a lot of these fans making it appear that a writer could come in and wave a magic wand and tell executives what to do with their billion-dollar properties, these fans are absolutely not only ignorant, but absolutely wrong. That's not how it works, folks. And if people would educate themselves on the realities of the entertainment industry, we wouldn't have all this nonsense and misinformation and disinformation and outright stupidity regularly shared online. It is called show business, not show art, but show business. Emphasis on business. Okay, people? So I don't have the ability, I don't have the right, I don't have the legal authority to go in and change things to make it what I want it to be. And I am proud that they said yes to an African American Matt Trakker. I will never apologize for that, ever. Okay? I just want people to know how it works. It's a business, people. This is not somebody sitting around giggling in their parents' basement, just randomly making stuff up. This is a business. There's a development process that usually can last anywhere between a month to 6 months to a year because there's money involved in it. There's a financial investment from multiple entities who ultimately want to get a return on that investment. If we happen to get entertained in the process, that's part of the goal too. But they wanted to make sure that the new mask concept could appeal to a larger demographic. That's all it was. It wasn't trying to destroy your childhood, which I don't understand, because you can still watch every episode of Mask that was ever made. That's not taken away from you. Nobody has stabbed your eyes out. You know, this weird weaponized nostalgia that goes on today. I don't know what it is. I mean, the guys who would be angry about this have to be in my age range because the show came on in 85, 85, 86, you know? So I'm 51. So at the tail end of that, or going back, you have to be in your early 40s, you know, at that back end. And then going forward, you would have to be probably pushing 60 or maybe over 60. So you've got men in the middle age of their lives, and some toward the end of their lives, angry about a 1980s cartoon property that not everybody remembers. Angry about a show that you can still watch, which really doesn't hold up as well as you'd like to remember it, because you go back and watch it, and some of it is just absolutely awful. And but you know, I'm a Transformers fan, so some people feel the same way about that, right? But in any case, one of the things that woke me up from being a disgruntled fan happened to me in 1999 at San Diego Comic Con. There was a Beast Wars, Transformers Beast Wars panel hosted by or centered around the showrunner of Transformers Beast Wars, animation writer named Robert Skir, Skir. I sat through the whole panel. It was cool stuff being shown, previews, blah, blah, blah. And at the end, I was able to walk up to Robert Skir and ask him why he made all these decisions that, you know, I didn't like. As if, you know, who was I, right? And he was very kind and calm. And he said to me, well, it wasn't necessarily decisions that I made. These were decisions that Hasbro made and things that Hasbro wanted because the new toy line had to reflect, I mean, the stories had to reflect what the toys were going to look like. Which, if you're a Transformers fan, this is right before the Transmetal stuff happened and before Beast Machines was coming out, right? So that snapped me out of this delusion that Hasbro and showrunners and writers and producers were out to get me because they had a mandate to sell toys, and that show was a vehicle in order to sell toys and comics and t-shirts and whatever the case, right? So I'm just saying this so that fans can kind of I don't know. I mean, it's not everybody, but there's always this like very loud, ignorant, simple-minded, bigoted group of people who just can't shut up and just enjoy what's out there. Nothing is hurting you, man. If this is all you've got to worry about, God, I wish I had your life because I've got bills and friends and families and stuff to deal with in life. I gotta pay my car note. I gotta put gas. I gotta keep my lights on. I gotta go outside. And deal with things in the world. If all I could be angry about was the fact that someone changed the race of a 1980s cartoon character in a modern comic book. If that's all I had to worry about, man, I would be living it up. In any case, I just wanted to give some folks out there perspective on how this stuff actually works and what to do about it, because there's nothing you can really do. In any case, folks, take care of yourselves and hopefully check out the new Mask books. I hope they're cool. If you haven't read the Energon books like Transformers and G.I. Joe that Skybound's putting out, they're dope. They're really good. I really strongly recommend them. They're cool, very smart, and they do not disrespect anything from the past. And yeah, and I guess the really cool thing about that Black Matt Trakker that I helped develop was the fact that they made him into an action figure, and it's the only thing I've ever worked on because of something I did that got made into an action figure. So for me, I am extremely happy about that, and I have nothing to complain about. So hopefully some of you will get to the point where you have nothing else to complain about too. All right, again, take care, folks.